Hello, dear listeners. We're doing something a little different today. Well, the same, but also different. We'll be talking about Salt Houses by Hala Alyan and Memoirs of a Porcupine by Alain Mabanckou. Um, However, it will just be me talking about it instead of me and Steph. So buckle up, buttercups, because you're going to get my unfettered opinion on both of these books. So first off, we'll start with Salt Houses, which is a novel about a family, a Palestinian family, and it traverses three generations of that family, first starting with Salma and ending with the Manar, her great great grandchild. Hold on, doing math. Yeah, her great grandchild. Um, It starts off with Salma reading her daughter Aaliyah's uh, future in like tea leaves, coffee grounds, one of those. Um, and she provides her daughter with a very amputated um, reading, kind of cutting out a lot of the more negative things that are happening. And you encounter throughout the book that Selma's prediction essentially is coming true. Like the family is scattered around because, you know, they are uprooted thanks to the 6-Day War in 1967 in Palestine, where Salma's son Mustafa is killed. Aliyah's fiance slash husband slash father of her children is also captured when Mustafa is, and is dealing with a lot of PTSD from that. And it just sort of weaves in, and you kind of get the sense that Mustafa's death sort of resonates throughout all the generations, not just through Salma and Aliyah, but Aliyah and Atef's children and their children's children, where, you know, each child sort of has characteristics of people in the generation before them. But the kids don't know about Mustafa as much because Mustafa's not talked about a lot after his death. Overall, the book is really, really well written. It's very, very heavy material. I mean, you're talking death and genocide, and towards the end of the book, it can be a little triggering with regards to dementia. I won't spoil all of it, but there is a character who is dealing with essentially Alzheimer's at the end of the book. And that's really difficult, especially for people who have had a family member who is or has suffered from Alzheimer's. Just the watching somebody you love degenerate in that capacity, and it's extra painful when they just have flashes of normalcy and they remember people, and then it goes back to they don't remember anything, they're confused, all of that. I really, really loved this book. I really, truly did, even though it was very heavy. It's a great book about how what's happening in Palestine, even, you know, throughout the years since the Nakba, has affected every Palestinian, especially like the older generations, because there is the disconnect for the younger generations because they've never been, especially in this book, like they've never been to Palestine. So they don't have that same connection to it as like their parents and their parents' parents does. But overall, loved it. I truly do think everybody should read this book. It's very, very great. I really loved Aaliyah, despite her moments. Like sometimes she's not a great mom, and that's okay to say. Uh, but given like her trauma, losing her brother, and everything else, it makes sense. And it really it was really difficult to read as a parent because it's like, damn, like you don't have to take your stuff out on your kids. But with everything else going on, it kind of makes sense. And it's almost very similar to the way Selma was, where Selma doesn't have favorites, but she is more drawn to Aaliyah, and Alia is, more drawn to, her son than her two daughters, especially because one of her daughters is so much like her. And then you see her relationship with her grandchildren and her children's relationship with their children. Yeah, overall, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It's a very fantastic book, and I think that everybody should read it. I did genuinely enjoy it. 10 out of 10. Now for Memoirs of a Porcupine. It took me about half the book to get into it. And for reference, it's about 150 pages long, but it took me about 50 plus to really like dive into this book. It is written from the point of view of a porcupine who is a sort of like a spirit guardian of this child named Kabandi. Essentially what's going on is Kabandi is, I guess you could say, sort of a serial killer. However, it's because of his father. So what happens is his father brings him when he's 11 to this place out of the village that they live in and makes him drink this awful drink. And because of that drink, what happens is there's a split between Kabandi's self and like there's a secondary Kabandi that is essentially hidden to almost everybody except the porcupine, and that is also when the porcupine becomes sort of part of Kabandi. And from there, it's all of how the porcupine and Kabandi are working together to sort of like lash out at those that have wronged Kabandi in some capacity, or allegedly, because in some cases, like the people that are wronging him aren't bad people. They're just not interested in him, or they don't like him, and they are then punished because of that. It's definitely a worthwhile read if you can get past the formatting, because it's told from the point of view of a porcupine. It's written in that point of view with the grammar and the punctuation and all of that. So it can be really difficult to figure out when something's ending and when something's beginning. But truly, like, by the time I got to the end, I was like, yeah, like, this is worth a read. This is worth, like, it is genuinely, I say this a lot, but it is genuinely telling a very interesting story about, this kid who has this life thrust upon him at 11 and, like, has no choice but to feed his alternative self by killing people, and how it makes him sort of lose his sanity the more that he does it. And you see that from you see in the beginning of the book, his father going through that as well. Like, his father just sort of becomes this awful person because of the drink and because of the ritual and all of that. And it's just it's a book. It's a book that if you have the stamina for, you should read it. It might be better on audiobook if you're like me and you can get distracted with the lack of punctuation and all of that. But overall, it's really a good book. There is a good story in here. There is a good plot in here, but the formatting is just very, very distracting. It makes sense why the formatting is like that, but as some of you might recall from my priory rant in the first episode of Margin Mavens, I don't do well when it's not what I consider standard punctuation. Um, so take that as you will. But if you have the opportunity, please, uh, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Give it, 50 pages. If after 50 pages you just can't do it, that's fine. Um, but at least give it that much and see how that goes. And let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about Salt Houses, and let me know what you think about Memoirs of a Porcupine, because I'm curious who else has read this and their feelings and thoughts. And this is about as spoiler free as I think our episodes have ever been, because I'm staring at Steph right now and I don't want to spoil it for her just in case she does decide to read them at some point down the line. Um, but yeah, out of the two books, Salt Houses was absolutely my favorite. It just slapped me in the face with the emotions and and feelings. It really did. It felt like, but in not a bad way. Um, the ending really did get me. The ending was very, very emotional overall. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Salt Houses and Memoirs of a Porcupine. Tell me what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree. And we will see you in the next episode, where I think we'll be talking about something good, something different, something fun. I think it's
A book,
a book, maybe.
you know.
Um, yeah,
Listeners, I have
yeah,
been here.
yeah.
I This has been Kayla's show today because I wanted to kind of give her the credit for being able to read these two books. Life was lifing for me around the time we needed to read these books, and I just couldn't do them. But I wanted to still showcase the stories that were being told. And I think Kayla did an amazing job. So make sure you let her
Thanks.
know that she did an amazing job.
Thanks.
And we will see you guys in the next video.